have the
So this is not
translucent coat.
leucistic.
No, not at all. Nothing related.
Okay.
And the eyes are normal looking. It does affect, it does have the translucency like a leucistic, but it also has normal looking eyes. And so far, what I've noticed in all of the visual ones.
Back to a really exciting episode of the Gecko Guys. I'm Bobby, and my co-host is...
I'm John.
And we are not alone today. We have a very special guest. This is Nikki from Dixie Reptiles. And I actually, I'm new to the crested gecko scene. I know, John, you've been there for a while. But we're walking around Tinley, and I saw one of the most amazing booths and animals at Tinley, and I had to stop and ask you about it. And we had a little great interview. But before we dive into that story, I want to get to know who Dixie Reptiles is. So welcome to the show.
Hi, great to be here.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about, just who you are and what kind of animals you work with.
Yeah.
And we'll get into all the different, fancy things you're working with too.
Okay.
But let's get the backstory like we do in most podcasts, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I got started into the invertebrate and reptile world really, really young, like toddler age. I was in a fenced in yard in the city, and I was catching every kind of bug that I could. And my mom saw the fascination. And then we ended up, when I was in elementary school, we moved onto our family's land, which was 80 acres. And we had a farm, and then we had woods and all kinds of things. So it was just a whole new world for me. And it was just impressive, all of the plants and animals and bugs that you could find. So I would go and catch anything and everything. And then they saw I was still interested in all of this. So my aunt got me the Audubon Book of Insects. And that was just the biggest deal to me. So every time I would catch a bug, I would try to find it in my book and I would highlight it. And again, I grew a little bit older and still was interested in that type of thing. So she put me in contact with an entomologist at Clemson University. And he became more or less like a pen pal to me, and he would send me gear and supplies and help me with my fascination. Yes, my mom was very supportive, even though she wasn't interested in that type of stuff. She steered me in the right direction to people that could help me. So that was
Nikki,
really
I think
nice.
that's the coolest answer to a how did you get started in this hobby that I've ever heard on this podcast or any other one. So basically what you're telling me is that you have the same story as the creator of Pokemon, right? Because he absolutely was. Yeah, do you know that story? If you don't, go look it up. But the reason why he started Pokemon, because he was obsessed with catching and documenting insects, and he wanted to do that in a digital platform, and so he created Pokemon. Anyway, tangent over. But
that's so funny.
Is the coolest
I did not
answer.
know that.
Yeah, you were a Pokemon master before even knowing it.
Apparently so. Well, and then to add to that, because I try to add different facts when I do different interviews, so it's not the same regurgitated stuff all the time, but just some more little tidbits of my past growing up. So I would catch things, and then she had like a little place in our sunroom with aquariums with lids. So when I'd catch things, I could come put them in. I'd go get tadpoles out of the pool or from a stream. I was really good at catching lizards. I had like this skill. I would do these little hand motions and I'd catch all kinds of different lizards. And she would take me around to the pet stores, and I'd be this little girl that's like 10, 12 years old or something. And I'd go in with my aquariums and I'm like, do you and they'd measure everything. And that was back in the days when, people still did stuff like wild caught and things. And it's just part of how we grew up in that time frame. So she would carry me around and let me go in these pet stores, and I'd carry my stuff in and go to the people and try and sell my tadpoles or lizards or turtles. And they'd measure them and whatnot. But it's just that's how I was just fascinated with that stuff from an early age, and kept stuff in my room, and as everybody probably did. But yeah,
that's awesome. So okay, you're growing up. You started super early. When did you transition to actually keeping? Did you keep just reptiles? Did you keep inverts? Like, what did you start with, and how was that transition?
It was a mix of things, but my focal point of what I wanted to study in college was entomology. That's what I wanted to do
Awesome.
with kind of with a focus on arachnids particularly. And I was in between. I had this vision in my head. I don't know if you've ever seen Medicine Man with Sean Connery in it. Have you ever watched that movie? It's an
I
old
can't
one.
say I have.
Okay.
It's on
I
the list now.
Yeah,
suggested,
there you go.
but you need to watch it. It's an old movie from probably the 80s, but I saw that and I just was like, the rainforest, I have to go there. I haven't been yet, but that was in my mind. What I wanted to do was like go up in the tree canopies and see the bugs and see the wildlife. So that was kind of my inspirational movie as a child and got me really wanting to do that as a career. So I wanted to be somebody that was either in the field doing things like that, or I wanted to study forensic entomology. That was my alternate. So it was one of those
Cool.
two career paths. However, as life kind of takes you in different directions, I actually work in the financial industry, and I'm an anti-money laundering specialist. So
Interesting.
that's what I do as a career. And I don't get to dabble in that as much anymore. I just changed roles, but I had for years, I was a point person and I would help with undercover accounts, and I handled things for like special investigations. So it'd be like pill mills and human trafficking and different subjects like that. It was a very interesting job.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm still
I bet
certified.
we could make a whole podcast on that. It'd have to be on a different channel, but that's awesome.
Yeah, it is fun. But that let me do this as a hobby and not a job, which keeps it fun. So that's why I really enjoy having a full-time job too, because it allows me in the evenings, this is my fun job.
Yeah, it's kind of a de-stressor after a long day of dealing with other things, right?
Yeah, I've got
That's
a rocking
amazing.
chair downstairs, and I call it my wall of weirdos for all my non-crested geckos. And I'll just like sit and look at my pretty animals or take them out
I
and
love
hold
it.
them. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a goal of mine definitely to create, I've got my gecko tent now and I love sitting down there. But it was funny. I had my cousin helping me while I was on vacation, and she sent me an Instagram reel of Brian Hu's basement, right? And she goes, "You've got to create something like this, guys." And I go, "Oh, that's Brian Hu's." And she's like, "Do you know him?" I'm like, "Well, talk to him." She thought it was the coolest thing. So Brian, if you're watching, hi. We'll have to have you on. But it's you're kind of a Zen garden, right? Of just amazing animals to there's always something to look at, and there's always something new.
Yeah, and I've had new things kind of spark my attention. So cresteds are what I keep numbers wise because they're easy, they're cute, people love them. But I do have pairs or trios, essentially onesie twosies of other things.
What else do you work with?
Goodness, over the years, a lot of things. So I've worked with different types of snakes, say, for example, like womas and blackhead pythons, to different milk snakes, different sand boas. I've had tricolored hognose. I have a very small project with ball pythons. My husband is heavy into that. I've got a pet coach whip that I love. And then southern white-lip pythons. What's some more fun stuff? Several different fun things. And then as far as other types of lizards, I've got a pair of chihuahuas. I've got Saracenorans. I've got lychees, and I like locality specific if I can. It's my preference on those. So those I have worked with different types of abronia.
Are you a big island lychee person, or do you like the mainland, the big guys?
I like both. I mean, I like both, but I do prefer like the smaller ones, like the Pine Isles. Those are probably ones that I particularly like. They're really not too large, and they can have some pretty colors on them. And then I just got into. I have had a couple of different types of leaf tails, like mossies and another variety, but I just got spear tails, and I love those so much. They're so much fun. Very cute, and I just like watching them. And different types of day geckos. I got Borbonica, which is a Madagascar species. They're so beautiful. I had seen those on the Reptile Report. They had a picture of one years ago, and I screenshot it, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but I'm going to own one day. So years later, now I'm working with those.
That's awesome. Cool. It sounds like you've got a fun house to come visit.
Yeah. So Terry and I had been married once before, but I said I wanted to have somebody that shared my hobbies and interests and had a like mind. So obviously, though, with two people doing it, you have to have more space. So when we got to looking at a house, our whole downstairs is just reptiles. The only thing that's not is we have a pool table down there so we could play.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so you said he's into ball pythons, right?
He has had a variety of snakes, but as far as numbers for him, just like my numbers are crested geckos, his is ball pythons, but he does have other types of snakes as well. And he had back in his day, so we've got a little bit of an age gap, as most people know. He produced the first albino tricolor rutheni. So he's
Oh, wow.
credited for that. So that's his mark on things. Yeah. And then I have made
That's
mine.
awesome.
Yeah. And I've got my little
And you've
fun
got your
project.
mark,
I do.
which leads us back to what I said originally when we started this, which, I'm walking around, I'm doing my little walkthrough video, right? And I'm
Yeah.
talking to John, I'm like, have you seen this booth? They've got the craziest looking crested gecko that I've ever seen. So tell everybody what we saw. I'll post a picture of it right here. But
Yeah. And I'll take
what
him out
is
too
this
and see
thing?
if he cooperates. The project started with I have an eye for like weird stuff. So I'm always looking I do like lineaged animals, but I will play with something that isn't lineaged if I see something weird about it. And I think that might be something. And there was this very small baby gecko that I saw in Daytona years ago, and it didn't have any kind of lineage. It actually has horrid structure. The head structure is just really bad. And I almost didn't buy it because of that, but it was too weird for me not to mess with. Grew her up, and then she's the foundation for this project. So I call the project Frostbite because the first one that came out was the original girl, and I named her Frostbite, and I just named the whole project after her. But this is,
Makes sense.
well, if he'll cooperate. He just got out of the cup. But I don't know how
Don't
well you
ever
can
work
see
with
him.
kids or animals.
Yeah. This one is my favorite one, and I named it Lucky Number 7, and he is my absolute favorite one that I've produced to date. And I've made probably near a dozen of these now, but they all come out a little bit differently. This one has the most pronounced pattern on it. Well, it's very translucent. And if you see that back pattern, it turns very like a golden and copper color. A lot of people were getting that mixed up with leucistic when they saw it, this particular animal. As most of them, like I said, they're not that visual. So most of them have the
So this is not
translucent tip.
leucistic.
No, not at all. Nothing related.
Okay.
And the eyes are normal looking. It does it does have the translucency like a leucistic, but it also has normal looking eyes. And so far, what I've noticed in all of the visual ones are the toes seem to be always translucent. Not what there's been pied toad that they called it years ago that have popped out in collections. That, to my knowledge and my research over the years, has been more like a fluke one-off, and they're like solid white. And they're not, from my knowledge, they've never been able to be replicated, and often those animals had deformed eyes. These I have had no issues with. They're translucent, not white, and it also affects the scalation of the animals too. And I do have a video on Instagram, if you get bored, that I call the roadmap. And on Frostbite, the original animal, I went with a recording microscope, and I went all on the different parts of the body, and you can see how the scales look and how they change also. So there are little micro scales with little speckles, and then there's also patches of bare skin. And then a little bit further up on the body, it kind of looks like what you would think like pseudopores or something, except for it has a little bit different texture, almost like I've always described it as deflated bubble wrap. You know, when the bubbles start.
Oh, okay. Like when you pop them.
Yeah, when they start kind of like looking a little dimpled, it kind of looks like that. So that's my descriptors as far as how it looks to me. And then I've noticed like a purple tint on some of the scales. I don't know what that is yet. I'm still documenting and trying to figure things out. And then this guy right here, I'm waiting on him to get big enough because Frostbite and obviously the mother are females, and I needed a male to kind of, what I want to do is pair him to mom and sister to prove it. And we can touch on too, because I know a lot of people, as you were saying earlier, we were discussing about.
Yeah, we're getting comments right now.
Yeah,
they're good, but they're putting them in.
Yeah.
So tell me, okay.
Yeah.
So obviously that would be line breeding. When breeding back to mom, that's straight up inbreeding, which a lot of people in this hobby, they get their pitchforks out. So let's talk about.
I completely agree. Yeah, and I agree with that mindset in general. However, And I was one of the, most with that stance, and I still am. However, there is necessity to do it sometimes to prove
Mhm.
something out. For me, though, I think sometimes people get too greedy, maybe, or something, or they're trying to like produce, and they start inbreeding too much. And I think that's where we get genetically weak animals. So for me, what
Yeah.
I want to
Mhm.
do, this is my personal opinion. So I'm going to do that just to prove it. And then after that, I'm not going to do it anymore. And what I'm going to do at that point is start
Mhm.
outcrossing. And I already am starting to do that. I'm preparing to things that are completely not related genetically, not related, lineage wise. So I want to keep this project. And that's why I haven't let any of the babies or offspring go or sold any. I've had, people wanting them while I've been working on this, but I don't want to get it. I don't want it tainted. I want it to stay genetically
Mhm.
Mhm.
strong, and I don't want any flaws genetically. And also, I wanted to make sure it was genetically sound, and it seems to be. I haven't had any
Mhm.
problems with growth, development, breeding, no issues.
Well, I think it's smart, to do both just to
Hmm.
prove out what kind of
Mhm.
genetics you're working with.
Right.
You don't want to take 10 years of outcrossing and then mixing to figure that
Mhm.
out. The fastest way and really the most ethical way, so we have a clear understanding without all the
Mhm.
different static, is to line breed so that we understand what kind of genetics is this a recessive gene? Is this
Right.
a incomplete dominant gene? Is this even a
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
gene, right? Is this something that
Mhm.
could have been a one-up? Now, proving that out by producing more than one baby.
Mhm.
But
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
I completely understand where you're coming from. But then, like you said, outcross as soon as you can to make
Yes.
stronger animals.
Yeah, and I'll keep track of all of that and make sure that things, as I said, stay genetically sound because I don't want anything getting messed up. Because
Mhm.
obviously, just like with anything, the more you inbreed something, you start seeing flaws. So,
Mhm. I like how you bring up the making sure projects genetically sound. A really common thing in other hobbies that are focused around breeding animals is like back crossing. And that's
mhm,
that breeding it back to the mom to see if any lethality comes up, right? The
uh-huh,
only way we found out that Lily to Lily is lethal is by doing that. So, you
exactly.
doing that from the start to get a good foundation is a great way to learn more about not only how the gene is passed down, but the maybe negative side effects that could come from crossing two of them together. So
Yeah,
it's a really responsible thing to do.
thank you. Yeah, because I mean, I could have made a bunch of money already just by selling ones that
Hmm.
and keeping a smaller portion of them or something. But for me, I want to do things the right way and I'm patient. And some people have even been like, why don't you do this? Why don't you, or power feed or try to beef them up faster? I'm letting them grow at an appropriate rate. And then I'm doing things the
Hmm.
way that I feel it needs to be done. So hopefully that just, puts me in a good place in the community where and I think it does.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Oh, absolutely. I think, the hardest thing in this hobby is learning patience. And if you have patience, you can really have a lot of power in doing things the right way, keeping your name, and most importantly, the animal's health first and
Hmm.
foremost. And then I give you credit
But
for
I
that because
think
yeah,
that is part of your
you
name.
could easily turn a buck with those things. They're
Yeah.
gorgeous, and I mean, I can't imagine how many people tried to offer you, money at Tinley, with
Uh-huh.
number 7. So was he
Uh-huh.
the seventh animal born?
He was, yeah. Yeah, I was tracking
Yeah.
them like that, yeah. But I thought
I
lucky
love
number
it.
7, yeah. And it was the prettiest one to me also. But I have produced
Hmm.
several others, but, yeah, it's a fun project for sure. And then we were discussing before we got on, about the leucistics as well. That's another thing I'm working with that's kind of newer in the crested gecko hobby that a lot of people are
Yes.
still getting confused about or a little leery of maybe because of, for example, super caps. So right out the
Hmm.
Mhm.
gate, people were kind of scared to touch them because they were worried about flaws and deficiencies and defects. So I don't put my name on something or I'm very blunt, brutal, and straight, transparent. So if I know something, I do. If I don't, I don't. I'm very clear about things. I researched those thoroughly to the best of my ability before I got into them. And then I got some from John Mack in the early stages while he was first popping them out. And then I've got one from Brian that was his first visual that he sold, along with several that are fires.
That's
So,
awesome. So yeah,
mhm.
so okay, maybe just because I'm brand new to this, and I've seen Brian's stuff. I remember seeing it for the first time at Tinley, and it blew me away. Seeing the first, I think they're now calling it a blizzard, right? The leucistic animal. What's the difference between that and what you're working with? Now, clearly that yours have some color and, the black points and the scalation differences. Are any of those in the leucistic? How can you differentiate? How do you know it's something different?
Well, with the leucistics too, if you notice the eyes are like a black color, and if you hit
Yep.
them with the camera correctly, which Brian got some really great photos, you'll see a little bit of red, and they're generally like more of a solid white, but they can have very varying bits of color and pattern to them. I have some with a little bit of white on the white that's a little more solid, not so transparent. So you could see a difference, contrast on them. And then on the dorsum area, you can see anywhere from like a yellow to a goldenrod color to even a little bit of like a tannish, brownish copper color. I've got some variety like that. And some are more just white. And that's the difference. And then also genetically how those work too. So a lot of people were getting mixed up with the original phrasing on these because they were calling them genetic hypos, which is why Brian changed the name. Because as he and I discussed, we were talking about that, and a lot of people were getting confused because of hypo, just standard hypo that's been around in the gecko community for years. It's not the same because people thought, oh, well, I'll just get two hypos and put those together and I'm going to make leucistics. And unfortunately, that doesn't work that way. So you have to have animals that came from the lineage of a leucistic, or, John, I'm sure, had some, since he does produce for pet stores, that did leak out into the population that are probably fires, but you're not going to know unless your luck is correct and you pair correctly and the odds are in your favor. But so the other thing that we were kind of touching on earlier before we got on was about the heads, or I call them heads. I call them visual heads, but
now they're calling them what, fire or
fire versus
they're
super fire.
fire. Yeah, and I'll use layman's terms on a lot of things too, just to make things digestible for people, because
love it.
Yeah, so that's why I use the term visual het, because they're kind of there's not a specific thing like with caps, for example. You're looking for, everybody's like, oh, the V or this or that. It's not a specific thing like that. It's the overall look of the animal. So when you do have the lineage and you're producing those type of animals, and say you've got two non-visuals that came from leucistics, when you pop out babies, you're going to know that they'll make those. They look different. I'll have to pull some pictures or something for you, but they just stand out.
Sure.
They look more hypo, so they do look different visually. Like if you hatch a normal and then one that is a fire, you're going to see the difference when they're right in front of you. So and I think Brian does.
I guess I would love to see those photos because
well, Brian has them on his page. He did some side by sides, I think, with where babies hatched out, and one was a normal and one was a fire, and you can see it's a good representation. Because I asked him before I got started, I was like, okay, well, when I get cracking on these and I'm hatching out babies, how am I going to know if I'm producing fires? And then he showed me several pictures and different egg clutches that were hatching, and once you see it, you just know. You'll get your eye for it.
You can't unsee it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I was pointing them out, and he's like, yep. So you can, once you get into it and you actually see it, you'll get it. It's visually different. Yeah.
So I'd like to touch on, because I've heard a lot of differing opinions when it comes to spotting the single gene copy, the single fire. Some people say it like disrupts dorsum pattern. From what you're saying, I'm getting the consensus of like overall it like lightens pigment compared to like a normal.
Does
that sound correct? Okay.
Correct. Yeah. And I'm working on quality also, not just producing leucistics. So I'm throwing in things that are like some of my best animals. So I've got one that is covered in spots, and I'm working on a spotty thing because everybody knows I love my super dolls. So I'm working on something.
I love your super dolls too.
Thank you. That's my favorite. Actually, I just got my tattoo of my.
Oh, nice.
Yep. I don't know if you can see.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Oh, that's really cool.
That's my boy Propel. He was one of my first super dolls that really got me into those, and a super special animal will always be in my collection. And I just got that this past week. So, yeah.
And he'll always be with you now.
He will. Yes. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but what were we saying? I'm sorry, I kind of detoured on.
We were
No,
talking
no.
about pairing quality normals to
Yeah,
fires and
yeah.
focusing on
So
the visual markers of the single gene copy.
right. So I'm at the point now. I'm taking things. I do have my animals at a proper age and weight now, where I've got the one I got from Brian and one of the ones I got from John that are opposite sex that I'm now pairing together to prove those two lines compatible.
Mm-hmm.
Which I know they are, but that will prove it. And then also, I am taking those and pairing to completely non-related,
Mm-hmm.
no history of leucistic, with like multiple generations of lineage behind them animals to try to produce like really good quality animals. So I'm looking for, like I said, color, head structure, clean animals, doing things like that. And I did just pop out a month, I think a couple months ago, I made a fire frap.
Oh, cool.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
That's news.
Yeah.
Yeah, the multiple gene animals, the more we add into the hobby, then all of a sudden it kind of snowballs. There's even more combos,
Mm-hmm.
that you can get into, and it gives a lot of people different creative avenues to really play with things, which I love that idea. That's exciting. And kind of going into structure is, I know with like the super cap and things like that, the head structure just automatically drops, right? You're not going to get that wide head. With the leucistics that I've seen some with not the best quote unquote head structure, right? I'm wondering if that's something that with the right pairings could be added in, or if the gene, kind of strips it away, kind of like the other ones.
Yeah, I think it does tend to do that. However, I do have like a girl and she's got some crests there. They're there. They're not horrid. It's better than what we had seen originally. So I do think there is room to play with that and get it better. Now, how good we're going to get it, I don't know, to be determined. But that's why I chose, like, for example, one of my biggest headed girls that I put something to. And then also I like to go back to like old lineage too. So like I've got some F2, F3 kind of stuff, and that will tell you a lot often too. Yeah. So I take avenues like that.
That's awesome. Yeah, the possibilities are kind of endless with this, and it sounds like you've got a lot of different tools that you can play with, and you're grabbing the right pieces to play around with all this stuff, which I absolutely love. Is there a next step that you're really excited about? Like the next thing you're like, next season, this is what I'm doing.
Well, I'm ready for this upcoming season. I'm ready for him to get big enough to prove my project out. That's kind of the thing that I'm really looking forward to, is that combination, so that it really definitively nails down and tells us what I'm working with is what it is. Because I know in Korea, they started popping out some stuff similar. That I do believe that some breeders, I've seen some stuff that is not the same at all, but then there are some things that a couple of breeders I've been in communication with that I know that they're working with the same thing as me. And I believe they're calling it pied.
Yep.
However, I don't know that the terminology fits to me, but I get where they're going with it, because it doesn't play genetically like I would think a pied would. So I'm still playing with it. And also the communication barrier sometimes when we're trying to communicate. So we're still discussing things actively and keeping up with each other's projects and sharing information.
It's funny how the terminology, everybody's racing to label something, right? And yes, it's a dark and light patched animal. However, a lot of us then go to just naturally to ball pythons and go, well, if it's the same name they used, does it look like that? Does it work like that? It's a little bit confusing that way. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm comparing it to, is what I know about pieds and snakes versus how they're terming pied. And we'll see.
Yeah, we don't want to confuse people, because it's already, trust me, as someone who's just getting into crested geckos, this stuff is so confusing compared to my gargoyles. So
poor Bobby, he's got to deal with genes for the first time.
I need one of those yellow books, like the crested geckos for dummies.
Yeah.
That's why I do this podcast, so I learn a lot, hopefully.
Well, and then I'm sure a lot of people know this already, but a good resource for some of the genetic finds that we're working on is Little Monsters. If anybody is not familiar with their page, their genetics documentation. Actually, when the stars line, I'm trying to get with him on working on something. We've been trying for months to get together. We've been playing tag to try to get something started on this project. But as you know, he had a baby too. So congrats to them. and
Yes, congratulations.
very happy for him. But also looking forward to trying to get something documented on this, and I'm trying to keep track of things and anything that I find on this to be beneficial for the community when we do put information out.
That's awesome. Yeah, I that resource I think John and I have talked about Little Monsters
No,
1,001 times.
I've read over their Phantom section like 100 times.
Well, just me getting into tigers, I've been reading it and, you know, kind of understanding like, I'm sort of still confused because I don't know. I just need someone to talk to me about it. I'm not the best reader.
Well, if you ever need anything, please reach out. I love talking about geckos all the time. And that's what my husband, because he's not into the lizards really at all. And I'll bore him to tears because I don't get tired of it. I don't. I'm waking up, like I'll do my job. But then after that, it's like geckos and lizards are always on my mind. And I'm always looking at pictures of them, reading things about them, playing with them, and showing him pictures or look at this one, it looks different. And he's like, can you go call one of your gecko friends?
That's why me and Bobby made this podcast.
Yeah,
it is, because I feel bad for Kylie. There's certain times I'm like, you guys should be hanging out and just watching a movie together. And I know we're talking. And then, you know, my wife, it's funny because she's a big reader. So she'll be like, I've got this book. Can you go call John? You know, be alone for a little bit. So we're right there with you. So join us in on a call. It'll be so much fun.
There you go. Yeah. Because this is just, I'm very passionate about it. I love what I do. I love playing with things and trying to figure things out and trying to produce the best quality animals. Speaking of, another good thing, and I'm tagging other people's projects and things that they're doing.
Good.
David at Tiki Geckos, he has the Gold Standard Gecko Club, and that is something that I really love what he's doing with that. And I said this in the last podcast too, but I think it's important to bring it up because what he's doing is he actually has, it's almost like dog breeding, like where they have the competitions for that. But I like what he's doing because there's standards to the animals and what we're looking for as far as the traits and what we're bringing to the table as breeders and trying to produce the best quality animals that we can. And I think that it even puts me in a position where sometimes I'm like, ooh, is this not good enough? But it makes me want to do even better. So I like that. And actually, I did get one of his awards in New York. I won for the best yellow gecko. And she's on my Instagram page. Yeah. So I was really proud of that and very happy about it. And I look forward to competing in the future on that. So if anybody is interested, he's got his website up and he's doing that. And you can register animals on there. So I did that with a couple of mine as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the concept of it. I you know, when I talk to him about it, my biggest, it's not even a concern. It's just I can't enter because I'm so new that I haven't produced anything that's old enough to submit. I've got stuff that's old enough. I just bought it from other people. So if anything shows you how kind of humbling it is that, you know, I haven't done everything yet, right? And John is right there with me with how old we are as far in this hobby. How long ago did you start breeding geckos, just out of curiosity?
Cresteds or just geckos in general?
Let's just say crested because we're talking about crested.
Okay, we'll say cresties. Why not?
Probably around the 10-year ago mark-ish.
That's awesome. Yeah, so you know what you're doing.
Somewhere in that world, in that realm. Yeah, I don't remember exactly, but ballparking right around that. Yeah.
John, did you have a question?
Really enjoyed it.
I'm not on this. I have more questions about Frostbite though, but I didn't want to cut off.
Let's jump back
I'm
into
enjoying the conversation.
Yeah, we can go there.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're jumping back into Frostbite.
Yeah, I mean, I love them.
So, in talking with you and seeing these examples, also, your booth was right behind the Chewy booth at Tinley. So I have to tell you that you distracted me from doing my enclosure build off because I was on a 4-hour time limit and I turned around and there's this gecko I haven't seen. I'm like, well, I have to have a conversation. So thanks for that.
Absolutely.
But when we're talking about Frostbite, there's we're talking about lucky number 7, super high expression animal versus commonly, and I was browsing your Instagram and stuff before this, how it's at least on the toes.
Yeah.
When I'm trying to compare to other genes as a general term, there's always a phenotypical, once you selectively breed, you can get the expression higher. Whereas with Frostbite, it seems a little bit more chaotic and erratic.
Yes, and that's what's confusing for me and why I really want to do the combination that I'm talking about, because
Mhm.
Frostbite, the original animal, this is a direct sibling. It's same pairing and everything.
Oh,
There's
wow.
no changes. There's nothing different.
Okay.
It's not like I paired two different animals or did another generation. We're not there yet as far as that project.
Mhm.
So it's direct sibling. And then the one that was in the case below it, I don't know if you looked at it, but it had the toes like that, but then also on the
Mhm.
belly.
Yeah.
And there's pictures of it on Instagram too. And then
Mhm.
some of the time too, it almost looks like snowflaking. Like if you looked on the belly, it's these white irregular
Mhm.
blotches on the belly along with the other cool attributes. And this one doesn't have that at all. So I'm not sure yet. And that's why there's so many things I'm noticing, but I don't say something is something until I really break it down and I'm concretely sure
Mhm.
that of how it works. But I am noting these things.
Going back to the
Mhm.
original animal, the female,
Mhm.
I know you said you just noticed something funky about her. What was it
Yeah,
that she has? Does she
you
have the
can.
white toes or what's going on there?
No, no, she does not, which is
Okay.
why I was confused when the first one popped out because I did think I was going to do something cool, but I didn't know it was going to be this. So it really
Mhm.
did surprise me what I popped out because to tell you too, Frostbite herself, I was just checking eggs and I was holding it in my hand and it popped in my hand and hatched. And that was the coolest moment
Oh.
ever because she literally hatched in my hand and I was screaming and freaking out like,
Mhm.
what is this thing? This is so cool. Look at this. And yeah, so it was a fun thing to happen. But her mother, the
That's
original
so
animal that
cool.
got me in that project, it was just the color of the gecko. She has a very purple tone to her, and it's truly, and you can see
Mm.
pictures as well. Her name is Redonkulous, and she has purple coloration on her. And then it's also this kind of, it's not pixel, but it's pixely looking on the sides and
Mhm.
such, and even on the back.
Mhm.
So she just had this really weird look, and on the head too. You'll have to look at the pictures if people want to go on there and look at the pictures of the mother. I can only pin, I think, 3 things at the top, so I pinned some of the most relevant stuff. But if you do
Mhm.
search back too, you'll see her dad's on there too. Dad is Baba O'Reilly. As I said, got extensive lineage on him. He's not
Mhm.
anything that I have ever seen or known anything weird to come out of. So I truly think that it's coming from the mother, but he's on there as well if anybody's interested in seeing him. Like I said, I'm pretty open book with
Mhm.
stuff. If I know something, I'll tell people. If I don't, I'll say I don't know. So I'm
Mhm.
still
I
having
love
fun
that.
with this.
Honestly, it's so refreshing. I remember just like asking you about the animal and we jumped into an interview within 10 minutes. Like it was,
Mhm.
you were so open and so welcoming. And I hope everybody like takes
Yeah,
cue
sometimes
from
people
you
get
because
too
it's
serious.
amazing.
We should all be having fun with this stuff and also supporting each other and just be and there is most of that in the community.
Yeah.
I'm full disclosure. I'm very candid. Brutally honest at times, but I try to do it nicely. So if anybody ever has a question about something, I'm always very willing to help people. And I always say there's no dumb questions as long as it's a legitimate question. So I've
Mhm.
had, I always tell people if they ever have questions, reach out. I'm always willing to talk to people, help them out. If they are, uh, not sure about, say, a pairing or how genetics work on something or anything really, I give my honest opinion
Yeah.
or I'll
I
Mhm.
can
point them in the
attest.
direction.
It's so awesome. John, what else did you want to know about frostbite?
So, okay, perfect, cool.
Mhm.
So,
Cool.
what you're saying, from my understanding, is yeah, Bobby's like prime. He's like, hey, I can see that you're thinking and talk.
Oh, John's got
So,
the best questions about crested
I
gecko, so let him
I'm
run.
What
just
you got?
curious. I like being curious. Okay,
Yeah, I do too.
so you said that Redonkulous, right? That's the founding female. She was paired to a male with extensive lineage, nothing funky about him,
Nope.
and she by herself was able to hatch out animals like Lucky Number Seven.
I
So,
assume. I assume that.
okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
so as far to our knowledge,
I don't think I magically picked the right pairing. I don't. I wasn't sure at
yeah,
first, but I
yeah,
really think,
that's
yeah.
you
Have
got to
you
go buy
paired
like
her
a
with a
hundred lottery
different
tickets then.
male yet? Have you paired her with a different male yet?
No, I gave her an off season. I could have, and goes back to ethics. I could have been producing more of
Mhm.
these, but I gave
Mhm.
her this season off because I'm raising him up and I want her to be really stable, nice and healthy and ready to go
Mhm.
for this next round of the project. So I want
Says a
her to
lot. Yeah.
recover, recuperate, build back up, be nice and strong and healthy so that when I pair her again, ready.
Okay.
Mhm.
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's just
So are you?
it surprises me because like it's a very striking morph. Like Frostbite's very striking. And
Mhm.
so for some reason in my head, and that could go back to like things like that being labeled as pied. And when I think pied, I think recessive, right? Because ball pythons.
Right.
But from
And
what
that's
you're
why I
saying,
say it
it's
confuses.
possibly,
Yeah.
yeah.
According to what I'm picking up from the Korean breeders that seem to be working with the same thing as me, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But and then they use terms like low pied and high pied, and I'm still trying to decipher. And conversations are pick up and put down, and it's I'm still trying to figure things out as well as
Mm-hmm.
they are figuring things out. So still a lot to figure out.
Yeah. So are we
Yeah.
thinking? Not saying this is exactly what it is, but are we thinking it's like an incomplete dominant
It
gene?
appears to be.
Is that
Yeah,
the theory right
I
now?
Wow.
believe so.
Huh.
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, because like I said,
Yeah.
Cool.
ones that and I did do this. I did pair just one single pairing to Frostbite herself because again I didn't want to breed her too much, but I did want. I had one of the
Mm-hmm.
brothers was ready to breed, so I did pair him one single time just to see what I got, and I did get a couple of babies, and I didn't get any that have the markers like the
Mm-hmm.
visuals as I call it, but I did have some that look similar to the mother. So I don't know
Okay.
what that's telling us right now. But I did do
Mm-hmm.
that once, and then again, I didn't breed her anymore because I'm amping her up for this project. But I did
Mm-hmm.
want to do it once to see what would that do. And I did get some interesting animals, but none that had, say, the patches or the toes or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's some weirdness with the scales. And I was
Mhm.
looking at them last night, and I'll probably do a recording on those as well, just for documentation purposes, because it is different. And there are, like I said, little spacing in the scales, it's a little bit of a translucency to them. Not as much as say this one right here, but a little bit
Mhm.
of it. And
Mm-hmm.
then that speckling on some of the scales.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mhm.
I apologize. I'm slow. Did you just say that you paired Frostbite to another visual
No, it
of
wasn't.
this?
I didn't have a
No.
visual. I was waiting. I thought I had all girls because I'm very good at sexing
Okay.
even like
Oh,
super
wow.
tiny geckos accurately.
Yeah.
However, because this does affect scalation, this is throwing me. I thought I had all
Mhm.
Yes,
females,
I
and
can imagine.
yeah, I thought Frostbite was a boy because of, like I said, about those
Mm-hmm.
pseudopod
Those
looking areas.
dimples.
I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this looks like it's going male. Completely wrong. And when she didn't develop any cresticles and started laying eggs, I was like, oh, well,
Like that.
yeah. So, well, I mean, I knew before that, but that's yeah. So anyway, she
So
turned
who
out to
did
be a
you pair
girl.
her to?
One of the brothers, the ones that I held back from that season, because the funny thing with that,
Okay.
let me get back a bit. Frostbite, as I told you
Sure.
how she hatched, she was the only one that season that did hatch. So at first I thought, well, I just popped out something cool that's a fluke because nothing else that came out that season, but it was her first season breeding. So I thought, oddball one off. If it doesn't replicate, it's still something really cool. But
Okay.
then the next season, I had a whole string of them, and then I knew that it was something. So that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
But the
That's
one,
Christmas every time it hatches.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. But to go back, so the ones from the second season are these guys right here. So those are the ones that are still growing out. But the original one, I did pair the brother that didn't look like her, but had some like I said, things that I'm thinking I'm seeing. I paired him to her a single time just to see if I got anything. And I did pop out more that have some odd characteristics, but I didn't get any that
Mhm.
actually looked Frostbite.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. Okay. No,
Mhm.
that makes more sense. Yeah, I just was wondering because I'm like, was there an opportunity if it is an incomplete dominant for a super form with one of those
Mm-hmm.
pairings already?
Exactly. And that's why I
Yeah.
really needed one that I know is a Frostbite to do this. But I did want to try that too to see, well, what will happen? Will I get any? Again, I only did a single pairing, so I didn't get but a couple, 2, 3 babies, but none that actually came out like these that we're talking about now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, it makes sense. After you play with this, I know I'm thinking down the road, right? What are you the most excited to do a multiple gene pairing? If this proves out as what we think it is, right? What gene would you want to throw to it first?
Gosh, that's so hard to say. I don't know.
I know.
There's so many. I'm one of those that my head is just like thinking about possibilities, just like going back to say leucistics for a second. I'm thinking everybody's like, well,
Mhm.
what can you do with a white gecko? I'm like, okay, well, can we put spots on it intentionally? Because I'm a super Dell freak. And then I'm like, okay, what about tiger? Can we make some white, like the striping on there? Or it's got some of that
Mhm.
coppery or yellow tones. Can we make things that go down a little bit? Lily white, what will that do into that project? Is it going to make it more prominent white on the clearish white gecko? I mean, there's so many different avenues, even with something like that, that you could take. So this one does have color and pattern. So I'm really not sure. I mean, I plan on doing a little bit of everything eventually. But
Yeah, with
what
lucky
I,
number 7, you could run them to a few different options.
Yeah, exactly.
Who has to
yeah,
choose?
yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, I will probably go with, like I said, one of my F2, F3 girls to really do
Mhm.
something and then start playing with more of the complex things. So we've got obviously like
That's smart.
lilies, tables, cabs, high white harlequins. I mean, there's so many different options that we can play with on that. And that's going to be the fun part because when I start releasing, I'm excited to see what other people do with it. I
Mhm.
want to see where their brains go and what they think of and what combinations they come up with.
That's awesome. You've got years of playing with this.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is
Yeah.
just the beginning. This is, scratching the surface, which I love. That's why I'm
Mhm.
so excited to have you on. John, what other questions should we ask for crested geckos?
I mean, we already touched. I wanted to talk a little bit about the structure, whether it's
Mhm.
just, it's a new gene versus the similarities, like in Sable, how, say, like Super Sables, for example, structure is just like, for some reason in the super has no structure. You outcross it, pair it to a normal. The normal Sables have structure and it's fine. I didn't know if there was any similarity with that.
I'm
We'll find
thinking
out.
probably kind of like leucistics we were talking about earlier in the structure. I think
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the things with it is just that horrid structure. And now again, can we improve on it maybe over time? Only
Mm-hmm.
time's going to tell us that. Same thing with the leucistics because I did get on one of my leucistic girls. She does have some little crests there, but they're still not great.
Mm-hmm.
They're far from great. But that's still not going to deter me, but I still think they're really cool animals
Mm-hmm.
and it's not hurting the animal. It's not harmful. So I don't feel like it's something that shouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
bred.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah. But structure is you can selectively breed that. That's the beauty of crested geckos. We can just, like you said, take it to our big, beefiest geckos and hopefully
Yeah,
we'll make something happen.
You know,
yeah, that's what I'm trying
it's
to
not just
do. And like I
incubating
said,
low.
do what?
I say you just don't incubate low. No, I don't know. It's funny. Like when I first started this hobby, there are certain things that were like, this is the only way to do it. And then now as we go on, we're always learning. And I love that. And
Yeah.
what I love about this conversation is that you're taking the steps needed to learn about your own
Mm-hmm.
animals before you just go out there and say, this is the gospel. This is how it works 100%. And, there's only one way to look at this. And I love that you're taking the time to really learn and experiment and do it the right way. So kudos to
Thank
you
you.
for taking your time with it. So you mentioned earlier that you've been working with
Mhm.
crested geckos for at least, 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been, before this, I was looking at your Instagram page and I was this close actually at Tinley. I don't know if you know this. I had just started talking about getting crested geckos with John, and there was a few different projects. One of the projects was a super doll project, but not just any super doll. I was looking, there's this one gecko from Korea that was like
Mr.
red
Spotty.
with ink spots and but it was different like
Looked like
type of
urban camo.
it looks like urban camo. It
Ah.
did.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a gecko on your page that wasn't necessarily red,
Mm-hmm.
but it had different colored ink spots, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I don't know who that is, but it is gorgeous. I was
Thank
like,
you.
ooh, I might
Probably
have to
goosebumps.
talk about those during the
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me about your DAO project. I know you said it's one of your favorites, but like,
Yeah,
what are you trying
it's
to
my
do with
favorite.
it?
I was
What do you love
playing with
about it?
those. Well, I was playing with those earlier than when like the craze took off and everybody started really getting into those. So I have like really old Mardi Gras and confetti lineaged animals, and then I got this guy that's on my arm. He was my first ink spot gecko, and I just fell in love with him because he's a pale base, and everybody likes that when they're fired down
Mm-hmm.
white, and then they have the big chunky spots and People, oh, cookies and cream. They just love that. But since then too, it's gotten me to focus on other types of things with that. Like I've got some spots that are more like olive spots. And then I've
Mm-hmm.
got a project that's just red spots. And then I've got a project that is a red phantom lily project with red spots. And that to me is one that I'm really loving right now.
Ooh.
That it looks like how I describe it is really pretty, just solid red when it's fired up, but when it's fired down, it looks like frosted strawberry cake. It's just like with the little strawberry bits, and
Ooh.
it's just really pretty. And that phantom does that, so it looks like the top is like glazed, and then the side it looks like strawberry cake. And then I have a dark line because I'm like, well, you know what? Because I like my stuff either really clean or really spotty. So when you see me
Okay.
in Tinley, I have two cases. One is just super dolls, and then the other is all my non-spotty stuff. So I mean, I've got stables, highways, lilies, caps. I've got pretty much everything that you can play with genetically, with the exception of a couple of things. I don't have chochos right now, and there's a couple of other things, but for the most part, I
Yeah.
have all the different things, and I like super stripes. Those have kind of gotten my attention lately, and I've been doing a lot with that. But super dolls are my passion point as far as my favorites.
That's awesome. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're I'm getting addicted, and I probably need to stop, but I might have to talk to you about some of your doll projects. I like the
Yeah.
funkier stuff. You know, if everybody's working on it, I tend to steer away from it, not because I'm snobby, but just because I like to be different.
Bobby's a
And
Yeah.
hipster.
Yeah.
apparently,
Oh,
yeah, a millennial hipster as I'm growing out my scruff.
well, that's what I was going to tell you too when I was talking about the clean versus dirty. I intentionally did a dark line, and that looks really neat
Mhm.
too. So it's like black fired up, and when it's fired down, it's just spots all over. That's a fun thing I've been working on
Ooh.
over
Oh
the past
yeah,
few
I've
years.
seen that. That's a really cool look. How it's like almost two different geckos. It's a clean dark
Mm-hmm.
animal fired up, and then fired down.
Like
It's
a
a
two
cool
for
pale
one.
dowel. Like
Yeah.
that's cool.
I like that. And I could imagine. So most red spots are not huge, right? They're a little bit more on the smaller side. Is that correct?
Yeah, originally. Now I'm working on that, and there's some other people that are too that have some big chunky, and I do, and I'm improving and improving every season. So I've got some with really big chunky spots that look like some of those ink and
Okay.
oil spots that are getting larger and larger as we selectively breed. But out of the original stuff that we were working with, like I said, a lot of it was those classic ink and oil with the black, or it was that confetti and Mardi Gras lineage animals, which were really tiny little spots, but a lot of them. So a lot of us
Hmm.
that focus on those kind of projects, we've honed in and just selectively bred for what we're trying to bring out in those animals and improved on things like that.
Okay. Now, do you find that spots genetically, like from one generation to the next? I know you're selectively breeding for different things, but like I've heard that like small spots, if you breed small spots, you're typically going to get more small spots, ink spots, you know. So like I feel like people just lump all spots together, but would
Well,
you say that there's like different categories of spots other than just color, like size, how they fire up,
yeah.
fire down, whether they stay
Yeah.
all the time?
Yeah, and I've intentionally bred one of my favorite animals was this guy right here, was just, inks and oils to
Hmm.
a confetti girl. And it was really neat because and it's one of my favorite pairings. I get tons and tons of spots. You'll get a lot of ink spots in there, but then you get a mix of those small spots too. And it throws a lot of bullseyes, which is really fun. So you'll get those
Ooh, yeah.
two-tone spots that are black and red, lots of those. Interruption is the male that I'm referencing. He's the son of Procol, and he was to one of my original confetti girls. And just when you see him, and sometimes you can't, that's our horrible part is trying to capture these on pictures. It's so
Hmm.
hard. Everybody always says that your animals look so much prettier in person than they do in pictures. And I wish that I could capture that better, but the color
People say the
combination
same thing
across,
about me too. Kidding, guys.
Anyway,
yeah. But
no,
Uh,
Bobby's taller in person.
yeah, I'm taller in
Yes.
person. Yeah, thanks, Ian.
yeah,
But
Anyway, Dalmatians.
it's so hard. I mean, John knows this with reds. I mean, they're near
Mhm.
impossible to capture on camera. You know, it's the same
yeah.
thing with a lot of the red gargoyles I deal with. Do you find that when you're taking pictures of your spotted animals, that
hmm
is it when they're fired up or fired down that makes it harder sometimes,
I
or
like to take pictures of them fired down for that type of gecko. Now, if it's a patterned animal or something, I want to do both. But on just my standard like super dowels where we're focusing on spots, I'm more focused on fired down look because that's where you see them most of the time anyway, and I want to showcase the spot. So that's kind of what I'm looking for when I'm photographing those.
Awesome. And this might be a dumb question, but do some spots, especially the ink spots, fire up and fire down with the gecko? Or do they all kind of just stay, a solid color all the time?
No, they do intensify. I will say, especially
Okay.
I'm thinking about that, like the reds, for example, and the oils. The inks generally stay pretty dark, but yeah, you will see an intensity on things like that when they are fired up. I have
Yeah, I
noticed.
know, like, oil spots especially, I can definitely
Hmm.
like, you can see a change when they're fired up
Yeah,
versus fired down.
yeah, I had to think
Yeah.
about that for a second.
Yeah, it's just something I've kind of noticed. I'm like, it's something to kind of play with too, right?
Yeah,
See,
That's
I'm
one thing I
I'm
love about
learning.
my Gargs is fired up and fired down. If they have a pattern color, that stays, right? No matter
hmm
Mhm.
what. And so that's what also kind of draws me to those spotty animals and crested geckos.
Yep,
That's
yeah, and I do
awesome.
have a few Gargs as well.
Do
Red are the
you?
color. Yeah, reds are the colors that I like. I like those pretty reds. I've got about
And then we
10 or
got
12.
reds.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
I thought it
Are
was
you
cute
what?
how if you notice this way, as soon as you're like, "I have Gargs," Bobby was like, "Ooh," and he, like, grabs his drink and, like, gets
Yes.
ready to listen. You
Please,
can
please
see
tell me
him
what
get
you have.
excited.
Well,
Yeah.
honestly, Nikki, just seeing the quality of animals that you keep, right? I'm gonna guess your Gargs are pretty nice, and that I really should look at some of them.
You know, the sad thing is I have so many animals that I have not photographed and put on Instagram and stuff that I'm
Hmm.
probably the only person that sets eyes on them. I really, and that's the bad part about, we were talking about full-time job. The pro is that I get to play with these things, but the con is trying to balance life
Mhm.
and kids and a full-time job and then trying to answer customers for sales and things and trying to maintain the animals. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy it.
Hmm.
But I wish I had more time to do the fun parts, which is like just taking them out to photograph them and post them and
Mhm.
those kind of things.
Absolutely. Yeah, people don't realize how much work goes into it, and
Mm-hmm.
not just
Mhm.
the taking care of the animals and cleaning them, but
Mm-hmm.
the marketing, the photography, the customer service.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who just they let one of those things go.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mhm.
it could be, hopefully it's not the care of the animal. That's the worst one. But there's a
Right.
lot of
Mhm.
great breeders out there where you can't get a hold of them, and I understand why.
Yeah, I get that. For me, that's part of what I like is talking to the people too. So, and I like
Hmm.
people learning and, and I like to help people. So I always try to be a good resource and I try to always make time. And I always tell people I may not get with you right then, but I will get back with you. And
Mhm.
if I do ever
Yeah.
forget, because sometimes you get multiple things hitting at you at the same time, life happens. So if I ever do not get back with someone, gentle nudge and I'll get back with you. And everybody that has reached out to me knows that I'm always available to help
That's awesome. Yeah, a
or
friendly
chat.
reminder every once in a while is not a bad
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, that's never a bad
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah, I am also of the campus. Like, if I haven't texted you back in like 4 days, just send me another text message. I'm sorry. Like, we
exactly.
work. We're busy people.
Yeah, yeah, and then I've got help stuff thrown on the top of that too. So when you throw all that together, as with everybody's got stuff going on. So it's just life,
Yeah,
and
Mhm.
we're having fun
absolutely.
playing in our hobby.
Well, I'm gonna nudge you gently to take some photos of those gargoyles. So, what do you work with? The stripes, splotches, both?
Both,
What's your
yeah.
jam? Both. Yeah, I mean, why
Both,
not?
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I've got a
There's not
couple
many
that are
to.
pretty saturated and not much else going on but red on them. So
That's awesome. I'm really excited for my next season, but it's always fun to see what else people are working with
mhm.
and how you sort of have an eye for the funky stuff
Yeah.
too. There's a whole other conversation, but there's some people I talk to that are really finding some funky stuff with gargoyles with,
Yeah.
base color and translucency and things like that. So I'm excited to see
I
over the next few years what's going to pop up.
yeah. Well, to touch on that, I do have one that's not a red. It's a pink. I don't know. Chris
Hmm.
Jones. I don't know if you've seen his stuff, but he had that pastel line. I'm not as great with the guard morphs and traits, but I just knew what I like,
Yeah.
and that's what I work with. But and it's a very small, curated collection that I've got. So out of those, though, I do have that one, and she's really cool looking. So she's very pale. It's almost like we were talking about the hypo-ish kind of coloration on that gecko. Really neat. I haven't paired her or done anything with her yet, but I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do with her, but I do have her in the mix as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a gecko that first comes to mind. Have you ever seen? They named her Barbie. SGT Reptiles.
No.
Go check out his page.
Okay.
He's got 2 animals from the same lineage, but he purchased Barbie. She is, when she's fired up, neon pink. It is the coolest thing.
Cool.
And so hopefully he can prove something out too this year. But right now we don't know. It's just a cool gecko. We'll take it.
That is neat.
Eventually the Gargs will get a morph. I have faith in you, Bobby. It'll happen. It's gotta happen.
Yeah, it hasn't come out of my
It's gotta happen. It's gotta happen someday.
So, but yeah, it's it always just kind of invigorates the hobby, and so I'm really excited about Frostbite. And obviously, number 7 just looks like he got caught up on Everest. He's got the little black points.
Yeah. Not to downplay the other ones, but he's just so cool looking.
Yeah.
And really, when you see him,
you're going to ship him to me this next week before it gets too cold, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh no, she already said she was shipping it to me.
Yeah, but you got to see him fire, didn't you? With the copper and the gold tones on the back. Oh, it's just, it looks like a Milky Way. It looks like a galaxy.
That's a good way to describe it. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, that could be another name for it too. I love it. It's going to be really interesting to see where it goes. There's so much to play with, and I'm just so happy you're here to actually kind of chat with us about it. So
yeah,
we'll see what comes from it. Other than the dowels and the Frostbite, any other projects that you're excited about working with, or that you have been working with that we should chat about?
Yeah, I've got a dark line that I have been working with on fine tuning because, like I said, I like stuff either covered or really clean. So back in the days when everybody was getting charcoals, and everybody thinks that's the line from, but it's not a line. He said that is what he called that look. But a lot of those charcoals, they were kind of like sort of kind of covered with spots, but not enough to be like a super dell. And that just frustrated me. So I have selectively gotten things that are super clean and super dark. And a lot of the times too, they had like a chocolate head to them, and then the body was dark. I've got a line that I've been working on for a few years, and I've gotten it pretty fine tuned, and I'm popping out super dark geckos. I actually put them on black backgrounds and liners so that it shows how dark they are. You can't see them in the cup. And I'm really proud of that. And I just named it this past year. I call it the blackout line. And
nice.
Really, really hyped about that. And I got an F2 girl last year that's growing out to go into that project. And there is one at Griffin Geckos that I got. Shoot, I can't think of her male's name. Very popular gecko, super, super dark. And I got a son he's almost ready to breed now. He'll go this next year. And his name is The Abyss. And he'll go in.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about my dark project. And then I've gotten...
and there's no Sharpie included in this, right?
No.
I forgot about that.
Right?
I know.
If you want to troll everybody, name it the Sharpie line.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah. No, I've seen that video.
Yeah, it's the real Sharpie.
Yeah, but aside from that, I'm working on. I got some sables grown out now. I got one really pretty girl from Candace at Candy Crusties. So shout out to her.
I love them.
She has exceptional sables if anyone's looking. And then I got highways that I'm growing out as well. That are really cool looking. One is empty back to go into my super stripe empty back stuff. So I'm just playing with that. For some reason, like I said, I don't know why, but I've really gotten into the empty back stuff, playing with phantom or super stripe or throwing in soft scale. I'm trying to throw that into a lot of things because to me, that kind of makes everything look more airbrushed. So I'm playing with that a lot, just playing with combinations of things.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's one thing that I'm learning is that a lot of these traits affect multiple areas of a gecko, and it's very subtle. Like not all of them are smack you in the face like Lily White, right? I think, that one's pretty obvious for a lot of people.
That one's like, wow.
Yeah, but it's cool to see all the different things, and then when they play together, because there's so many little things, you get even more cool combinations.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
they all don't look the same. They're not cookie cutter. They're all unique. Even with the animals you're hatching out, you said lucky number 7's your favorite. Because he just has a different expression than even the siblings.
Yeah, and we've got like pixels that have been out over the past few years, and then there's marbling because there's some of that stuff that
Yeah, I'm a
we
big
were trying to
marbling
figure.
fan.
Yeah, I like that too. So that's really cool. But we've just got so much we're figuring out, and then a lot of this stuff we've seen it and we didn't know what it was or how it worked, and now
Mhm.
we're at that fun part in this side of the industry where we're figuring things out, figuring out how they work, how they play, what is genetic and truly like how things kind of interact with each other. I think it's really a
Mhm.
fun time.
That's awesome. One thing I was wondering, because I just built my own little project right after we interviewed AJ from AJD, and he kind of walked us through his idea of how to build a new project. Since you've got so many awesome new projects, how many animals, if someone saw something funky and they wanted to build a project around it or pick one trait and build a project, how many animals would you recommend somebody start with in order to truly work a project? Like, can you just do it with a pair or can you?
I'd say 3 to 5. I mean, that would be my ideal
3 to
number,
5.
but
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know
what I'm
what you
wondering.
said, but that would be what kind
Oh,
of
there's no wrong
ballpark
answer. That's the best
yeah,
part.
I
No,
mean, I
there's
know
no
that's
wrong
just my
answer.
It's
personal
not a
opinion.
quiz.
I'd probably start with something like that, like a couple of males, maybe like 3 different females or something. I mean, it just really depends
Mhm.
on
Mhm.
what it is and what I'm trying to hone in on.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
I would try probably to get like the best male that I could and get like a
Mhm.
good example of that to play with and then start working in with the females because then you can take your good male that already has the like attributes you're looking for or kind of in that direction and put him to things that you're wanting to play with and see how does it interact with that. What
Mhm.
about this? These are some variation in these females. What can I do with that? And that'll let you know kind of where you really want to go with it, whatever the project
Mhm.
is. Personal
Yeah.
opinion.
No, no, no. But like I said, there's no
It's good
right or
advice.
wrong
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
But I'm right there with you because
Yeah.
I'm debating how many more I should buy because I I've got one male right
I
now.
sort of I went a little over the top with my portal project. That's just me. I have like 12 females now
Yeah.
just for that one project. I don't know what happened. I just
You've
started
got some
buying
nice
everything.
stuff coming up though. Those are fun.
You haven't seen my super dolls. Oh gosh, I had a wall built and it had it really pretty. So when I walk in, it's all lit up with the UV lighting and it's got all the enclosures and they're all uniform. It's just it makes me happy walking in there and looking at the pretty
Good.
animals.
Oh, that's
There's
awesome.
something about having a nice aesthetic setup that just makes
Yeah,
it makes
Mhm.
doing chores and doing the things that are like less fun way more
more
tolerable when it
enjoyable.
looks
Yeah,
pretty. You know, it
yeah,
helps. It helps a lot.
Yep,
uh-huh.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And okay, I'm gonna ask a selfish question here. With the
Mhm.
Dalmatians, are there any tips or tricks of the trade to figure out if a baby is going to be more spotty in the future? Like with me with golden retrievers, my grandma breeds goldens. The color of the ears of the puppy can kind of indicate the final color. So, like, is there any little things like that that I should be looking for if trying to not buy adults and buy babies,
Not
other than
hundred
just looking at the
percent.
parents?
Yeah, because okay, so here's my example of why that doesn't always work or apply because I know my line. So, for example, like I was talking about Procol, he's my originating. I know over the years what their babies produce, how they look, and a lot of the times with that line in particular, they look like little buckskins. You may see these tiny little,
Mm.
yeah, they don't look like much of anything. And then when they hit a certain age, they just start exploding with spots.
Hmm.
So knowing where you're sourcing your animals from is crucial and critical, and then looking at the lineage on them. That's going to tell you a lot because you can see some. I've seen some that are, being sold as dowels or super dowels that are pet prices and pet quality. And you would see one of my babies, for example, at that age, and you're like, it looks the same. But when you start knowing your lines and where your things come from, and also starting stacking the generations of them together, generally you have an idea of how those animals are going to come out as the breeder. So I just try to use references back to my lineage and showing, say, for example, growth and development photos and side by sides to kind of show where my stuff came from and how it progressed and how it looks at certain ages. And even some babies that I have shown that you'd see the parent picture as a baby, and this baby is more spotty than the father was at that age, but now you can see him grown up and he's very stunning, and the son's
Mhm.
probably going to pass him. So you just really have to look at. You can't just go and look at like a gecko on a table necessarily and be like, oh. Sometimes you can.
You have
Mhm.
Sometimes
to know
they'll
more of the
really,
lineage.
yeah. Sometimes. And I said that doesn't always apply. And sometimes you'll see some that are just striking right at 2-3 grams. I got one from David at Tiki's Geckos, and it was the Chester kid, and that thing was just covered at 3 grams, just saturated. So yeah, that's why I said it doesn't always apply, but that does help with those kind of projects, looking at the history and the lineage and growth and development photos.
So follow up to that then, is there a certain age typically, they're all individuals, but typically that they start to explode with those spots? So if it's a safer bet, if I buy at 18 grams or 20 grams or 30 grams, at what point do you see them start to really rise?
With my animals in particular, I know a little bit younger, but for a customer base where I can really show it is 7 to 11 grams. I feel more comfortable where the customer can actually visually see where it's going to go and kind of start
rather than trust me.
Yeah. So that's kind of my happy spot as far as size.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And personally for holdbacks, it's a little less just because you have that eye.
Yeah. I'll see some early on. I'm like, oh, hold back. Yeah. And I'll keep.
Well, next time you see one of those,
yeah,
twist my arm. Just say it. It might work out.
Well, I do have some that are growing out, and I can't keep them all, so I'm going to weed through and pick out a couple, and then if I am going to have some that will be released, that will be really.
Do you need some more gargs too?
I'm trying to keep that project small. I originally had the blinders on as far as gargs because I'm like, I don't need another thing that's going to be volume and take up numbers because. I was like this with it, but then with all these pretty different, the reds got me. When I saw some of the ones that have been popping out over the past several years, I'm like, okay, I have to have that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm this close with the blotches. Bobby's working his magic on me pretty hard right now.
Yeah,
I'm trying.
What is your focal point? What kind of stuff do you play with? Or I'm sure a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, so I specialize in tricolors and red phantoms actually.
Gotcha.
So my big passion project is my high expression red phantom portholes. It's still I'm still a newer breeder, so I haven't gotten into breeding my own holdbacks and things like that. But I'm working really hard to inject some more stereotypically high white lineage into phantoms. Like right now, I have a frostline animal that I've made het phantoms with, and so the plan is to sort of bring in new high white blood into my phantom project to help make a bunch of portholes. Later on, if you want, I can show you some pictures of some of my animals after this. And then also with my tricolors, I focus on the really messy, drippy, pinstripey tricolors. I really like the really stark white, really nice coloration, but also just covered. And then I have a tiny little Dal project because my fiance loves them. So
you gotta make her happy.
When we first started dating, she didn't like any of the geckos, and so I was just showing her all the different types. I'm like, there's got to be one she likes, and she sees the Dals, and she's like, ooh, and she's like, cookies and cream, and I'm like, oh, okay. So then I bought 4 of them, so that way I'd impress her. Now we're engaged, so it worked.
There you go. Yep.
Do you guys find it ironic that most people who see crested geckos for the very first time, if they have a lineup of all the crested geckos, I'd say at least 8 out of 10 say Dalmatian is their absolute favorite. And then there's such a stigma on all the other breeders going, is there a spot on there? Do not touch that. It has a spot.
I'm that person.
No, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it's
just the duality of it. When we want spots, they're amazing, but when we don't want spots, it's so frustrating.
I do have a few projects that I am ignoring spots because I like the project anyway. However, it goes against my grain generally. And what's worse is if there is one. I'd rather have, 6. But when there's just one, and it's always on the head or something very noticeable and visible, and it just drives me bonkers. And it's nothing. I mean, a lot of people don't care. There's about a 50-50 mix. You either care or you don't care. I'd say more people probably do that I've seen, but I'm one of those. I want them either saturated or super, super clean.
No, I think you're in.
Yeah, I'm also there. I've sacrificed a few of my Dal standards purely because an animal was too nice to not I was like, oh, it outweighs it. But otherwise, I would much rather prefer not having spots on my non-spotted animals.
Yeah.
There was one yesterday, so I'm always just watching Palm Street, and Brian had his Palm Street yesterday, and there was one that was a visual fire with giant Dal spots, almost ink blots, and I'm like, I was this close to bidding. I'm like, I have no idea what I would do with this. It doesn't go
You
with
don't need it,
anything that
Bobby.
I own.
If you
But it
do,
just looks
wait
so
on my
cool.
mail. Yeah, if you do
Uh,
end up getting something like that from him, wait on mine because I've got that really spotty male I'm about to pair him. I'm waiting on him to get a little bit bigger. So this upcoming breeding
Yeah.
season, I'm going to pair him to some super doll girls to try to make some more fires that are super, super spotty.
It'd be cool.
Mhm.
Now,
Now,
here's,
will
and
that,
I doubt the leucistics will actually allow this with their genetics,
yeah,
but
I
how
don't
cool
either.
would it be if you get super dowels on
Yeah,
top of a
on
leucistic and
top
it's
of
just
a
so
white
strong
gecko.
it
That would be
pops
so
through.
cool.
yeah. But
So,
worst case scenario, we get some really pretty super dolls that pop out leucistic.
That's true.
yeah,
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
Nikki, I've had such a fun time
It's
learning
been
from
amazing.
you. Thank you so much. Where can people find you if they're interested in learning about you or your animals or want to purchase one? Where should we direct them?
Morph Market, I do have one. However, as I tell most people when I meet them, I don't have most of my stuff on there just because, like I said, about time. As we all know how much time it takes just to do one listing and take pictures of a gecko, try to get it to fire, try to get it to stay still as we see all the flying gecko photos.
Yep.
So that is not where the best place to check is. Instagram or Facebook is where I do most of my communicating. And generally, if somebody's looking for something specific, I'll try to like curate a selection of things where they tell me like, I want this, I'm looking for a male, female, this size, this color, and I'll start honing in on what you're looking for. And then I'll show some things or seeing me at shows. I try to do, I'm in Alabama, so I do most of the things in Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, and I do the big shows like I'm typically at Daytona, Tinley. Those are the big shows that I do as well. And then Flora Fauna, whenever that's going on, I'm now doing that.
That's
Oh, cool.
awesome. So, yeah, it's always fun seeing you. Clearly, I go to Tinley every year because it's my home show, but I'll always stop by. You always have such amazing animals. And now that I'm kind of getting into this world, you tempt me, take my money. How about that? So, guys, go check out Dixie Reptiles and definitely give her a follow. She's got some amazing projects coming up. This is just the scratch of the beginning.
We're just
So,
scratching the surface. We haven't even scratched the surface yet. A lot of
No.
cool
Mhm.
things are kind of come out. Yeah.
so, but
Yeah.
thank you so much again for coming on, and
Really
thank you
enjoyed
guys
it.
for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this. So
Mhm.
awesome. Well, you guys have an awesome night. Later.
Right. See you guys.
Hey, if you've enjoyed this video and want to encourage me to make more Gargoyle Gecko content, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button, share this with a friend, and maybe check out one of the videos right over there. I'll see you next time on Gecko Cove.